Hello YouTube, welcome back to my channel. I'm Alison. I write as Alison May, Juliet Bell and most recently as Sinclair, and here on YouTube I discuss all things publishing and writing related. Today I have got the two biggest cold sores ever seen on a human face, so apologies for that. I guess I must be a bit run down. I feel fine apart from that my face is rotting, so sorry about that. It's kind of gross, but what can I do? It's my face. I can't really take it off. I mean, I could wear makeup, but that sounds like a lot of effort, don't you think? I'm continually impressed by people who wear makeup all the time, every day. Like, that's like next level adulting, isn't it? I wear makeup like twice a year, and my hair's all messed up too. Yeah, it's going well, I think. Anywho, today we are going to be doing a little NaNoWriMo debrief, and the headline essentially is that it did not go well. I think the last time I updated you, which was 3 weeks ago, which was the kind of midpoint of Nano, I was somewhere around 28,000 words. And in total, I got to somewhere around 28,000 words. Basically, the last couple of weeks were just a write-off. And I've been trying to work through in my head why that was, because I've been going okay. First week was great, second week was okay, but I was still sort of ahead of the curve, and then the last 2 weeks it just all got away from me. And I think essentially there are three reasons. First is everything that kicked off within Nano about what had been going on in the Nano forums and Nano HQ staff's response to that did just kind of leave me feeling a bit disillusioned and a bit less enthusiastic about the whole endeavour. And I think that got in my head a bit, that when I thought about Nano, rather than thinking, yeah, words, I kind of thought, ugh. And ugh isn't a super motivational mindset to kind of get into. So that was definitely part of it, just that little psychological ugh feeling. The second thing is that I definitely hit a bit of a wall myself. So I wrote those 27,000 words really quickly in about 14 days. Like I say, I was ahead of the curve. So if I'd carried on that schedule, I would have finished around the 25th-ish of November, I guess. But I just kind of ran out of steam. I think I burned out a little bit. I think for me, I can write 50,000 words in a month. I've done it before, but like 40,000 is a more comfortable pace. 10k a week is like a super comfortable pace for me. And just by pushing beyond that, even though I wasn't pushing loads beyond that, I was only pushing to probably about 13, 14 a week, that just extra bit really just made me get worn out just that little bit quicker, which is a funny one because you don't always see it coming while you're writing. So I think my best day of the whole, I'm just looking, my spreadsheet's just over here, I'm just looking, so I had a couple of days where I wrote over 6,000 words, and on both of those days I felt like super motivated. I didn't feel like I was grinding the words out, but I guess it's a bit like that thing where you do a workout and it feels really great while you're doing it, and you're like, yeah, I'm killing this, I feel strong, I feel good, everything's coming together, and then the next morning you're like, oh, feel like I've been hit by a truck. And I guess there's a bit of that to it, that while you're writing at that pace it feels good, and it isn't necessarily the next morning, but there is a point where your brain just kind of goes, yep, sleepy now, actually, just need a little rest, actually, yeah, so I'm just not going to write any words today. And there is that bit where you're kind of forcing yourself, you're sitting at that keyboard trying to force the words out, and just to get like, 500 words is so much harder work than the 6,000 you got like 3 days earlier was. And I think that thing of learning to pace, just because I can write 6k in a day doesn't necessarily mean it's the most productive approach long term. Maybe writing like 3k every day is better. So I think I did just push marginally too hard. And then the other thing that happened was that I got into a conversation with my editor about new book ideas, and she asked me to put together some pictures, she asked me to put together a more detailed outline, then she asked me to rewrite that outline, make some tweaks and changes. So all of that took up time, and it took my brain into a different project. So it's a different project from the one I was writing for Nano, and it took my brain into that And I was therefore not 100% focused on nano. And I think to write at that pace, to get to 50,000 words a day, for me at least, I need to be kind of in that project, blinkers on, in that project, just getting the words down. And as soon as I'd kind of spent some creative energy elsewhere, my brain is now split between two projects. And at that point, for me at least, I always get a lot less productive. Sometimes it's inevitable. Sometimes you don't have a choice. It's the reality of being a working writer, that you're editing one project, writing another, promoting a third. That happens, you know, it's the nature of the beast. But certainly in terms of the kind of creative stuff, the first draft, the creating the idea, splitting my attention across two things definitely slows me down. So I think that was the other part of why nano part half 2 basically did nothing at all. So that's my NaNoWriMo debrief in a nutshell. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try and learn from it. And my number one learning is that I'm not going to try and do nano again anytime soon. To be honest, I say that every time I try nano, which is why I don't do it every year. I do it about every 3 years. And at the end of it, I go, yeah, this isn't really for me. It's kind of like, I feel like it should work because I do generally write quite fast, but somehow it just doesn't quite gel. So yeah, I think it just isn't for me. I think that I need to learn actually sometimes to write a bit slower, because if I pace myself to that kind of 40,000 words a month, then I can do that much more consistently than pushing for 50,000 words and then kind of hitting a wall partway through. So number one learning is don't try and do nano, Alison, it's not your bag. My number two learning is more generally that about pacing. I have a couple of chronic illnesses, so I am like generally quite attuned to the idea of pacing in sort of day-to-day life. I have to think about rest, I have to think about like what I eat and when I eat and all of those sorts of things. So pacing is something that I think about in day-to-day life, but it's something I'm really bad at thinking about in my writing schedule. And probably I do need to get better, because I definitely did fail to pace myself, went all guns blazing, hit a wall and crashed, little trajectory during nano this year. So pacing is definitely a big takeaway piece of learning. And then the other thing is just be prepared to beat yourself up. What I was going to say is don't beat yourself up and be prepared to adapt. That's much better advice. Don't be prepared to beat yourself up. That's a terrible idea. Don't beat yourself up and be prepared to adapt. And the adaptation I had to make during this project was that I got an editor with potentially, you know, a contract and a commitment to publish, wanting to discuss something with me, and I decided to prioritise that above the kind of more speculative project that I was writing for nano. And I think that was a good call. I think that's a good, you know, your girl's got to make a living call to make. And so don't beat yourself up over that. If stuff changes, if you get different offers, if new projects come in, then you are going to have to change your schedule and you're going to do things differently, in a different order, at a different pace, and that is okay too. So be prepared to adapt. So yeah, don't do nano, for me at least. Pace yourself and be prepared to adapt. Those are my takeaways from nano. And I think those are really good takeaways. So I'm not viewing the project as a failure. I learnt some stuff from doing it, and I got close to 30,000 words on a project that I wouldn't be anywhere near that on if I hadn't tried to do it, I don't think. So yay, it's still a win. It's just not a classic 50,000 words during November nano win. I'd love to hear your nano experiences. Do share them in the comments below. I'm going to take a little break over Christmas. I've got some family stuff, and my partner's got some time off as well, so I'm going to be spending some time with them. And so yeah, this is probably going to be my last video of 2023. I will be back in 2024 with videos every 2 weeks about writing and publishing. If there's any topics you particularly like me to discuss, if there's anything you particularly have questions about, please do drop those into the comments below, and I will see you in 2024. For now, I hope you have a happy and healthy festive season, and I will see you next year.